Have you ever gotten a promotion and still feel like a fraud? Like any minute now, someone's going to tap you on your shoulder and say, you know what? We may have made a mistake. Listen, I've lived that. I've lived that fear, not once, not twice, multiple promotions, and there were still moments after multiple promotions where my tank ran dry when I needed it the most. Today we're talking about imposter syndrome, family. Why it hits hardest in moments of promotion and transition. Why is it far more common than most people will admit? But here's the good news. I'll also give you a concrete way to make sure you're not caught empty when it hits. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand why imposter syndrome shows up the way it does and exactly what you could do about it. So let me talk about like what I call the empty reservoir. My dad struggled from addiction. By the time I was 17 to 18, he literally disappeared my first semester of my senior high school year. He'd be there and he was gone. Then I found him again months later, then he was gone. And I found him again, he was gone, and I found him again. And he passed away when I was about 21 years old. Now the backstory is I never felt like I got his affirmation. I had been looking for it for a long time, but I didn't get it. And so when he passed away, this was the finality of getting, the good job, son. The I'm proud of you, son. That door was now shut. So what did I do? Unconsciously, I went into overperformance mode. I had to achieve everything. I became the youngest at this, the youngest at that, senior vice president in a Fortune 50 company, all the things. And it looked good on the outside. It even felt good, sort of. But unconsciously, there was something going on. See, here's the part I didn't know. At each one, there'd be this moment where I'd want to make a phone call to my father. I wanted him to say, I'm proud of you. And I wasn't getting it. And it's not that I didn't have people to talk to. I had my wife, I had people who loved me, but there was still this one reservoir, my father's affirmation, that was empty. And it was doing something to me. Here's what I want you to hear, family. Imposter syndrome doesn't start in the boardroom. It doesn't start with your new title and promotion. It starts years earlier in some unmet need, some need for affirmation that never got met. And it does not go away. It goes underground. It sits there. It's quiet. It's underneath the surface for years. And then in a transitional moment, a promotion, a new team, a new title, a new office, a new location, that old thing activates because that's the exact moment you need reassurance the most and you have the least structure for finding it. So here's what I want you to do this week. Ask yourself one question. What past moment of not enough is quietly running underneath my confidence right now? Name it. You don't have to fix it today. You just need to name it privately and hold on to it for a moment. So one of the things I think we need to know about imposter syndrome is that it's pretty common. Like I've sat across leaders abundantly, vice presidents, directors, senior vice presidents, C-suites, CEOs, CXX, fill in the titles. And there's one thing I can tell you that's happened more than once. One of them has looked at me during a meeting and said some version of, hey, James, I don't know if I actually belong here. And every time I kind of think the same thing and have to say it to them. You are not alone in this, not even close. Let's talk about the research for a second, because this isn't just me. This is documented. Back in 1978, two psychologists, Pauline Clance and Susan Imes, gave this thing a name. And here's what's interesting. They didn't call it a syndrome. They called it a phenomenon. Now, you might be wondering, why does that distinction matter? A syndrome says something is broken in you. A phenomenon says this is a normal response that shows up under certain conditions. And here's more. They did reviews. One review pulled together 62 studies, over 14,000 people. And the numbers on how common this is, they range from 9% to 82%. Think of how wide of a range that is. And here's what it tells you. This thing is common enough that no one can even agree on how common it is. KPMG surveyed executive women. They found 75% said, yes, I've experienced this. And where does it come from? Clance and Imes traced it back to early family dynamics. Does that sound familiar? Resonates with my story. Kids who grew up needing to constantly prove themselves to a parent, kids who got inconsistent praise, celebrated one moment, perhaps criticized the next. Again, sound familiar? And here's the kicker. Newsweek surveyed senior leaders. 75% said the moment this hits hardest is starting a new role. Not failure, not a setback, just the transition itself. So let me translate some of that. This is not a personal defect. This is a predictable human response to pressure. And it's showing up right now in exactly the kind of moment you're in. A promotion, a new team, new visibility. But here's your action step. Say it out loud to one person this week. Your spouse, a mentor, a trusted peer, and change the language. Not, I'm struggling. That's a little too vague. Say the actual words. I think I might be dealing with some imposter syndrome. Naming it out loud breaks its grip faster than carrying it silently ever could. So now let's talk about getting in front of it. Let me give you a picture, if you will. If you've got a car that is fueled by gas, you can refuel almost anywhere. Every mile or so, there's going to be a gas station. If you're on a highway, every exit for the most part, you really don't have to plan ahead that much. But if you're in an electric car, things are a bit different. Charging stations are fewer, they're farther apart, and if you don't plan your route, you could very well end up stranded with an empty tank at the worst possible moment, of course. Imposter syndrome shows up the same way. It hits hardest in moments of transformation, a promotion, a new role, something new. This is exactly the moment you need to already know where you're going for reinforcement. Plan your recharging stations, family, before you need them. Most new leaders wait. They wait until they're already running on empty to figure out where to refuel. And by then, they're too depleted to think clearly, too depleted to even reach out to someone. The leaders who weather these moments well, they're not the ones who never run low. They're the ones who already know exactly where their stations are. So this week, I want you to write down 3 things. And don't be vague categorically. Let's get specific. 1, a person you can call and say the honest thing to. Have ready the person you can call and say the hard, honest thing to. Number 2, a practice that reminds you of who you are. Outside of the title, you are not the title. You're there in that title for a season. I'm talking about things like faith, journaling, or a specific memory that reminds you of who you are. And then thirdly, but not least, a place you go, physically or mentally, to reset. Write them down, fam. Write them down before you need them. Here's what I want you to walk away with. You are not uniquely broken, and you are not alone. Nearly every leader carries some version of this. The difference is not whether the reservoir runs dry. It's whether you know where to refill it before it does. Invest in your people and yourself, family, and your growth is going to follow. Until next time.